Do you know who you're dealing with?
You guys know what time it is. Today we're gonna go in and claim another secret badge in TDS. Last time we basically managed to defeat the Lost Souls in solo mode, and this time we're stepping it up a notch. As you guys all know, there's a secret badge in here, however is more difficult than Lost Souls. In order to claim this secret badge, around only 162,000 people at the time recording this have unlocked. You need to beat Badlands in the quickest time possible, under 16 minutes. Definitely not an easy task, but let's go ahead and give it a shot. Before I say anything else, I should clarify that yes, there is another person in this server that I am currently playing with and or attempt, and that is actually my friend. Yes, I know it is bizarre, I have friends. And this guy is mainly the whole reason I managed to actually get this badge in the first place. I sure as hell could have just gone in solo and tried to, you know, solo it, do it myself just like usual, you know, be the lone wolf on this channel, just like I did for Pizza Party, Lost Souls badge, and of course completing Hardcore, which is my biggest accomplishment on this channel and or in TDS. However, I kind of wanted to switch it up for QuickDraw because this one is a little bit more harder and or a lot harder, since you need to beat Badlands in the quickest time possible to get this badge. Unlike, well, Pizza Party, where you essentially try to beat it in a much harder game mode and you have to use a specific loadout, this one you have to beat it in the quickest time possible with whatever you want, which is also good because who wants to use some shitty loadout when trying to also do something else in the meantime. And also I should clarify that I did use a guide. Pretty much this my friend actually sent me a Google Drive guide, and this was the very first time I've even looked at a guide for TDS, let alone for any other game that was paper guide and not like a video guide. And I thought I was gonna vomit at first at what I was looking at because a lot of the info was like on waves 1 through 10 you need to do this and that and that. I thought I was gonna vomit and also simultaneously go in a coma, but it turns out it wasn't really at all complex, and it was quite honestly a walk in the park. So I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description of what the guide we ended up using in the end. But honestly, it was pretty solid and it was very reliable. And another thing which I probably placed a little bit earlier in the footage is yes, we ended up using consumables and our perks, aka skills, so that was good. And yes, we did end up using a nuke, only one thankfully, and just a bunch of like spammed consumables, the usual range flag, damage flag, and rate of fire flag. But honestly, they really helped us to secure the W. And surprisingly, out of all the attempts, or essentially all of the other 2 videos on this playlist of I soloed blank game mode and got the badge that way, this was the least amount of attempts I managed to get for this badge. For Hardcore, it took me like 200 attempts just to basically get that badge in solo mode. Lost Souls, it took me 30 attempts, not too many. It didn't really feel like that many, especially when I had to just work together with like with what loadout I had and also the mortar. It didn't really take too many times. But the QuickDraw badge only took me 3 attempts. Yes, I counted 3 attempts until I eventually got it. Me and my friend basically attempted this twice, like a few days ago, or more or less like 5 days ago or somewhere around there, and we managed to beat this game mode very quickly. However, it was slightly over 16 minutes, and I was completely confused. It was like, wait, wasn't it over, you know, or underneath 18 minutes? Why is it all of a sudden just not giving it to me? And that's when I did some quick Google search, and I still didn't find anything that basically fixed the problem. Like, I should have gotten the badge. I had done it under 18 minutes. But it turned out, even though Google sources and pretty much the entire internet was wrong, you had to get this badge under 16 minutes, which is definitely a little bit more harder since, well, it's literally like a whole 2 minutes shorter. But it didn't mean that it was a lot more impossible, because it was very manageable, especially how me and my friend knew exactly what we were supposed to do with this guide, I guess you could say. This guide was very effective. I do have to give them props for that, so credit to the original owners. I could care less about going into the Google Drive right now and just looking at their names, but they'll be in the link in the description. Now again, big thanks to my friend for helping making this possible at all. If I was still doing this solo or even attempted this solo, this would have probably taken me 50 attempts to beat, so big thanks to him. He also does do TDS videos himself on his own channel, so I'll put a link in the description to his channel in the description, and also just at the end of the video. Go show him some love, but no NSFW stuff. You can only do that on my channel. And quite honestly, this reworked Badlands thing was actually fun overall. This was one of the game modes where I definitely had fun playing it, and it wasn't at all ragey like compared to, of course, hardcore. Lost Souls, not really too much. Even though it was difficult, it was manageable. Here, it just feels like a walk in the park. It really does feel very just simple, as you could say, just a bunch of spammed enemies. And quite honestly, it is pretty fun, and I'm probably gonna attempt to beat this solo, not in quick draw mode, you know, going as fast as possible to beat it in solo mode, but just playing in solo mode, see how difficult it is. But I think it won't be too difficult. But quite honestly, this badge was difficult, and out of all of the 3 badges, this one is probably second place, right next to hardcore, and I would probably place Lost Souls at the number 3 spot, the hardest one, and quick draw being more harder than that. And quite honestly, this was a fun time, and there's really not much else to say apart from that the skin that you get at the end is quite honestly pretty great.
crazier than me. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.